All right, folks, here we go with the notes for Chapter 22, how to get work in the voiceover business, how to turn this into something that you can make a living off of. Here we go. Now, first off, before embarking on an all-out promotion campaign for your business, you need to do your homework, and you need to get organized. Make sure your acting skills are up to professional standards. Make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you are able to recognize who you are, what your strong suits are, where your skill set lies, and make sure that you can do it and do it with excellence. Second, learn what you need to know to run your business, especially in terms of your marketing. You have to sell yourself. You're going to have to present yourself in a professional manner through things like websites and flyers and business cards to have a professional appearance and to have a professional model of how you are running your business. Because you're also going to have to do business type stuff like sending out invoices and balancing the books, or at least hire somebody to do that for you. You're going to need to be able to know how to do all those things. You are in business for yourself. You're a proprietorship as you go out and work as a voice actor. Third, keep your long-term objectives in mind. This is not something that you want to go into and try to feel your way as you go along. You want to have a vision, a mission, and a goal. A vision, a mission, and a goal in terms of what you want to see out of your career as a voice actor. Write those things down. Put it on poster boards. Stick it in front of your computer, on your wall, wherever you're going to see it on a regular basis. Remind yourself of where you want to be and make sure that you are working towards achieving those visions and missions and goals. Finally, continue honing your performing and engineering skills. There's always room for improvement. There's always an opportunity to get a little better at what you do. Be a continual learner so that you can continue to do your job with more and more excellence. Voiceover is not an overnight success kind of business. It will take an organized, concerted effort on your part, and it's going to take time to do that. Very rarely does anyone take on a skill like this, do a job like this, and at the snap of the finger become instantly successful. It is going to take an investment of time. It is going to take working your way up through various opportunities. You're going to have to put a lot of investment of time and work and energy into this. You also need to have knowledge of your market. Know what types of work are out there. Know who is asking for voice acting services. How do you find the work? Go out there and look for it. Also have competitive performing skills. Depending on where you live, you want to make sure that you have something to offer that is unique compared to what someone else offers, and that you can do it in an efficient and qualitative manner. Otherwise, your competition, other voice actors that are out there, are going to get the gigs that you want. Now, in terms of the business aspect of things, in your notes, there are a couple of organizations that I've listed that if the business side of things scares you a little bit, there are organizations that help small businesses to get themselves organized and doing things the right way, and I would encourage you to take a look at those. Managing your time. If you're going to pursue your dream and stay in business, you will need to learn how to manage your time to handle the work when it comes in, and then run the many other facets of your business at other times. So you are going to have to be able to keep yourself disciplined, to do certain things, to meet deadlines. And a great way to do that is to establish and do your best to maintain a certain routine for your workflow. Now, one thing that kind of makes the business aspect of things for the voice actor a little bit challenging is that many times those that go into voice acting are much more of a creative mindset. They're not necessarily kind of that logistical, orderly, systematic mindset that's a little weaker in a lot of voice actors. But when you're going into this kind of business, you need to have a good balance of both skill sets, left brain and right brain. Left side of the brain primarily handles linear, sequential processes. The right side deals mostly with non-linear, creative processes. So if you're a creative type, you are a right brain person. If you like numbers and data and organization and systems, you're a left brain person. So again, although most voice actors do tend to lean more to being right brain creatives, brain skills, it's crucial that we develop some left brain skills if we are to run our voiceover business effectively. These would include basic business procedures, accounting, and of course, time management. Now, if you're someone that has a hard time kind of going from the creative mindset to the more linear mindset or vice versa, the textbook does offer a couple of tips for you to help you in when you need to transition from one method of thinking to another. And that's something you can take a look at and consider if that would be good for you. Now, making the minutes count. Still talking about time management here. In order to manage our time effectively, we must pay attention to what we are doing during those 60-second increments of our day. The difference between success and failure is in how those minutes are put to work. It can be very easy for many people to lose precious minutes of work time, either because they don't have a systematic approach to doing their work, or they're not very good at keeping a schedule or even making a schedule. So some tips for you in that regard. First off, begin each workday by making a list of tasks for your day. Now, this is a good tip whether you decide to go into your business for yourself or if you're just trying to keep your life as you have it right now from becoming a beautiful mess. Make a list of the things that you want to get done in a particular day. Work on tasks in short, focused increments. Make sure you do only one task at a time and try to avoid or minimize interruptions. This is especially good for those of you that tend to be task-oriented. I know that I like to sit down, and if I'm working on something in particular, that I sit and I do it and I keep at it until I'm done. And that way it helps me to stay motivated and focused. Now, if you're a long hauler like that, that's not a bad idea for you. But if you have a hard time doing something for an extended period of time, it's okay for you to schedule your work in bite-sized chunks. Move tasks that are not completed to the next day's list. Don't just say, oh, well, didn't get to it, too bad. Throw it away, forget about it. Put it on tomorrow's list. Actually write out a new list and make sure that that's forefront in your mind to get done. And then as tasks are completed, check them off your list. Number one, it prevents you from thinking, oh, I still have to do that. But it also gives you a little 5-second celebration of, hey, I got something done. I accomplished it. Yay me, pat myself on the back. Maybe go get a candy bar or something. Reward yourself. You deserve it. Good job. Now, some other tips. Set aside a specific time of day, and you're going to see this for several different things. So there's a theme here. It's good to schedule things at specific times in order for you to get into a habit and into a certain mindset and workflow. But set aside a specific time of day when you will focus on your auditions. Do this at the same time every day. So you might set aside a chunk of time that you're either going to be out on an audition or that you are checking on the status of auditions or perhaps practicing, honing your craft, making yourself better. Set aside a specific time of day to check your email. Set aside a specific time of day for making outgoing calls. Think about all the different tasks that you need to do. And as you make that list, set aside certain periods of time to do those, especially those things that you would be doing on a regular basis, something that would be part of your to-do list every day. It's a good idea to set a chunk of time, a specific chunk of time aside to make sure that you're getting those done. However, you also want to be flexible enough with your schedule to allow for bookings, incoming calls, and minor interruptions. After all, you're in business for yourself, and you're the one that has to take care of all the things that come up. And because you're dealing with clients who are your customers, they're not always going to be, how shall we say? They're not always going to be compatible with your schedule. So as much as we try to get ourselves into a routine, we also need to be flexible and be able to pivot whenever the situation calls for it. All right, some business basics. There's a lot of things that we can do in a structured sort of way, in an organized sort of way, and take a systematic approach. But sometimes we just get lucky, so never underestimate the value of dumb luck. You can never tell when the next opportunity might present itself. So wherever and whenever those opportunities pop up, you need to be prepared. You could be going to the coffee shop and getting your medium regular with extra cream and extra sugar, and you're waiting in line, and you strike up a conversation with somebody who happens to be a producer and is looking for a voice for something. You never know. So always be ready for any encounters that might even pose a chance of getting work, to kind of slip into that mode and talk yourself up. The difference between those who are accessible and those who are not is often the ability to recognize the opportunities when they present themselves, and the preparation, skill, and discipline to self-promote, and the ability to do the job professionally when you are booked. So sometimes it is just being in the right place at the right time when an opportunity kind of comes along. But if you're not willing to make certain adjustments in your routine or your schedule, if you don't already have a booking for something, move whatever that other appointment is, if possible, in order to take the audition or take the gig, because that's where your money is going to come from. And it also shows that you're willing to be available to your customers when they need you. You must be able to deliver on what you say you can do, and you will only be able to quickly learn a new skill if you already have a strong foundation and expertise in related skills. So the more you practice, the more that you try different things, the more that you read up on what's happening in the industry, follow trends on what sort of things are in and out in terms of how commercials are being produced, what types of voices and characters are hot at the particular moment, because you notice that those kind of things come in waves. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the chapter. But you need to be able to flex with that. You need to be able to learn how to do things in a new way, how to think about things with different approaches, how to present yourself in various ways. And that takes practice, that takes learning, that takes researching, and it takes doing. Never underestimate your ability to be able to deal with people. Yes, you're going to be talking to a lot of people that have a lot of different personalities. Some that you will get along with very well, and some that, they require a little extra grace and patience, if I can say it that way. First off, you must be able to communicate with the director as clearly as possible so that you're both on the same page. When the director gives you some sort of direction, if you will, you need to be able to understand what he or she is telling you and kind of zero in on that as quickly as you possibly can. So if you don't understand a direction, immediately ask for clarification. Say the words in a different way. Do you mean to do this? Or, I don't quite understand. Can you explain that to me again, please? It is better to ask questions so that you can get it right, as opposed to assuming that you understand what a director means, getting it completely wrong, and then being unhired from your gig. A lack of communication skills can result in frustration for both you and for your client. And again, up to and including getting booted out of the studio. The direction you receive may be the direct result of last-minute changes or adjustments necessary to bring the project into time. Regardless of reasoning, accept each new direction with a professional attitude and an eagerness to meet the director's request as best as possible, especially when you're working on commercial productions where there are going to be possibly copy changes in the direction of the flow of a script. Perhaps some wording needs to be changed. Whatever it may be, even if it's just that we're trying to please the needs of the actual advertiser itself, and it could be going in a direction that is completely different from what we originally thought, or might be going in a direction that we don't necessarily disagree with, or that we disagree with, I should say. Whatever it is, go with the flow. Pivot, make the change in your mind, make the change in your voice, do what needs to be done. And even if it frustrates you, even if you think it's the dumbest idea in the world, the best thing that you can do in order to get through the recording session is to keep your personal opinions to yourself. This is not the time for you to fight. This is not the time for you to stand up and say, you're right. You know exactly what needs to happen in terms of the feel of a recording. It's not yours to say. You might be able to give some ideas and things like that, but generally, a director knows what he or she wants. A client has a fairly good idea of what he or she wants. And if they're giving orders and not really showing that they're flexible in considering changes, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, get the job done and get out of there. But do it with a smile, especially if you want to get more work. Producers, directors, engineers, and clients will remember you when you give them a positive attitude during a session. Your communication skills and your ability to gracefully follow direction will contribute greatly to that experience. We all enjoy whenever we are buying a product or a service that we are greeted with a smile, that the person that we're working with seems happy and genuinely glad to help us out with what it is that we're in need of. And many times that will leave a positive impression that will remind us of that sort of thing and go back to that business, go back to that service and use them again. That's the same sort of thing that we need to remember when we are working as voice actors. Because again, we're in business for ourselves. We're independent contractors. We rely on good relationships with clients in order for us to get work. So practice that smile. Practice that pleasure to serve you sort of attitude. You're going to need it, and it will take you a long way. Making contacts with prospective clients. Now, when you're contacting a potential client, first off, you want to make sure that you know what you want to discuss before you pick up that phone and make a call. If you are making a general inquiry, if there is any sort of available auditions, make sure that you kind of have in mind the sort of things that you're willing to do and have a feel out of that sort of thing. If you are calling to request a specific audition for a specific project, Know as much about that project as you can and have a certain sense of confidence when you go onto the phone and talk about that project. Know your niche, what you do best, who you are marketing to, and be specific about the types of voiceover work you are promoting. It's all about knowing yourself and sounding like a professional. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. So you are, when you're making these phone calls, doing your dangdest to put your best foot forward. So you want to make sure that you exude that when you are on the phone. Do some research on your prospects to learn how they use voice talent. When you call, let your professionalism speak for itself and show your prospect that you understand their needs and how your voice work can be of benefit to them. Again, what are you offering that nobody else does? What makes you unique? What makes you perfect for what it is that they want to do? Your open availability, your versatility of voice, your ability to speak complex words. What is the strong suit that you want to promote? Talk about that. Talk about it with confidence. You'll be much more successful if you engage your prospect in a conversation to let them get to know you and for you to gather additional information about how you can help them. So it's almost kind of like engaging in small talk, but you're doing it with a focus. You're not just trying to talk about the weather or something like that, but you're really trying to, in a almost casual, friendly sort of way, get the information that you need to determine if you are a right fit for them, and so that you can talk about how you are a right fit for them. You get a sense of the sort of things that they're looking for, what their needs are. And as they're telling you those things, you can make that determination in your mind. Oh, that would be something I would love to do. Or, well, I don't know if that's the right thing for me. And to be honest about that, if you don't think it's the right thing, because that's something that would be respected as well. But again, the entire conversation needs to be with a friendly, positive, serving the customer's needs sort of attitude. Okay, as far as your presentation of yourself and your office setup, obviously you ought to have business cards printed up. Your demo ought to be produced and ready to go and ready to distribute. Your email template prepared so that you can just pull it up, make some adjustments necessary for that particular project. And you should also have follow-up letters ready to go before you begin making calls. That way you can expedite your communication with them and make it seem to them like you are on the ball as much as you possibly can be. Again, efficiency in service here. Talk to someone who is directly responsible for hiring voiceover performers. If you are calling somewhere and you don't have the direct name or the direct extension of the person that you need to talk to, ask specifically for the person that handles the hiring of talent. And once you get that person, then you can discuss certain things. It does you no good to kind of share your pitch, if you will, with an administrative assistant or with somebody else that does not make the decisions in that sort of thing. If the person that you want to talk to is not available, ask to get their voicemail or ask to get their direct extension so that you can call later on. It's okay to leave a phone number as well, but as much as is possible, you want to talk directly to the people that can help you out with the work that you're trying to get. Offer to send a copy of your demo to those who are interested. Follow up by mailing your demo with a letter of introduction or emailing it if that's what they prefer. You will never get any work if you don't follow up. If you say that you're going to do something, do it, and do it as soon as you possibly can. That lets them know that you're serious. That lets them know that you're interested and that you're well disciplined as well. As far as follow-up goes, you will need to have the following basic items available in order to do follow-up. You'll need a cover letter on a professional-looking letterhead. It's very easy to create letterhead these days on a computer. You don't have to go and have things professionally printed out, but you do want something that looks nice. You want business cards. You want labels and envelopes to hold your print materials and your demo. So you want to think about packaging and presentation as well to help make your content stand out. You'll also need a Voiceover client list detailing any session work that you have done. So if you have done gigs in the past, it is very much customary for you to say, here are the companies that I have worked for, and it almost kind of serves as a reference list, if you will. And a website that you can refer prospects to for additional information about you and your services and where they can listen to your demo. Some sort of website availability is pretty much going to be a necessity these days. And I would suggest not having a subdomain type of website, that you want to have your own domain. That also shows a certain amount of professionality. And websites these days, depending on how savvy you are with building websites and that sort of thing, hosting doesn't really have to cost a lot anymore, especially if the most that you're going to be putting on a website is some MP3s of your demo and then some web pages to talk about you, maybe some pictures, and that sort of thing. It's not really going to cost you a whole lot. Your demo is an MP3 file for posting on your website, and emailing is going to be especially important. However, because there are some people that kind of prefer things old school, you still want to know and have the ability to burn a CD and make that CD available for people that would prefer that. The more professional you look online in your email, your social media posts, and in print, and the more prepared you sound on the phone, the more your prospect is likely to consider you for work. Presentation is everything. In the world of voiceover, a resume, though, not one of the requirements that you need to keep polished up, especially in terms of working for yourself. The main reason for that is that people are really interested more in what you can do for them now, as opposed to all the things that you have done in the past. The client list is going to be helpful in helping them to see who you've worked with in the past. The demo will showcase the quality of work that you are able to do. Those are the things that they're going to be most interested in. Most of them are not going to care where you went to school. Most of them are not going to care about different job experiences and things like that, unless they specifically relate to your voice work. So, resume not as important. The demo, the client list, that's important. If you have an agent, include the agent's name and phone number in the letter. In larger markets, your agent's number should be the only contact reference. Now, there are some that say that to put your agent on your materials is kind of at your discretion, and you could make that argument in medium and smaller markets. But I would suggest that if you have an agent, well, that's what you're paying an agent for, is to help coordinate and negotiate on your behalf. So if you have an agent, I would definitely recommend sharing that information in your materials. Your union status should have been established during your phone call. Now, there are people that say that they like to have the SAG-AFTRA logo on their business cards, or to tout that they are union in their materials, but that should have been established in your initial conversations. And it also will basically tell them that you're of a certain caliber of work and that you would expect certain standards when it comes to compensation. Now, if you're not union and they want to talk about rates before you understand the full scope of the work, then try your best to avoid sharing what sharing a hard number. Basically, you want to know everything that's going to be happening in that contract. Are you just voicing the spot? Are you going to have to do several callbacks? Who's responsible for retakes and mistakes and that sort of thing? How long is the commercial going to be used for? Is it going to be for other types of purposes? Are we dealing with a long-term agreement where you might be doing several commercials over a period of time? Know exactly what you're getting into before you make a quote. And if you're not sure what to quote, you can always start with union rates and then negotiate from there. After sending your thank you letter and demo, call your contact at the scheduled time to confirm that the package was received. Now, hopefully you scheduled a time with your initial call to say, well, I'm going to call back in a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and just to check up on things. But if not, at the very least, you want to make sure that you give the post office enough time for them to have sent your materials. One thing you do want to be careful of when you make that call back, you want to ask if they have received your materials. Do not ask if they have listened to your demo. There's a different connotation there in that if you ask if they've heard the demo, then it's almost as if you're waiting to hear some sort of feedback on your performance. But if you ask if they've received the materials, then it's in their court to say, yes, we've received the materials. They can go on from there to say if they've listened to your content or not, if they want to give feedback. So it's a low pressure sort of question, but also still shows that you care, that they know that you said you did what you were going to do, and that you're doing good follow-up and customer service. While you're on that phone call, you can ask if there's any projects coming up in the near future that might take advantage of your talents. You can phrase your conversation in such a way that it's clear that your services can help them. So, be looking for that next opportunity every chance that you get. Don't nag about it, but, again, just kind of casually say, by the way, I'm available for other things. Do you happen to have anything coming up? Yes? Great. I'd be interested to learn more. No? Well, keep in mind that I'm available. The only rule for follow-up is to be consistent and persistent. So, again, you don't want to be a nag, but you do want to let people know that you are interested in helping them. And you always want to deliver on things that you promise. Be consistent and be persistent. Now, next in your notes are some ideas for follow-up reminders, some things that you want to have available and things that you may want to do on a regular basis. This is where that client list will come in handy, whether it's people that you've worked for in the past or prospects that you've reached out to in the past. Keeping some sort of regular correspondence keeps your name in the forefront of their minds. So these are just some ways that you would be able to do that, and do that in a rather approachable, friendly way. Now, when you're reaching out to the people that book talent, start by asking to talk to the creative, promotion, or marketing department. You should always be talking to a producer or director. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It doesn't help you to talk to the administrative assistant or the janitor. It doesn't help you to talk to the accountant. It helps you to talk to the person that makes decisions about who they hire. Many times that is going to be the producer or the director, the one that would be working with you most closely for the recording session to happen and get accomplished. They're also going to have the best idea of what sort of things are necessary for the project to happen, what sort of voice and sound they're looking for. So it's really good to reach out to the people that are directly responsible for the project and making the decisions on who works on the project. So that's going to do it for this part of the notes. We're going to take a break here and we'll finish things up with part B of chapter 22. Now see you over on that video.